Welcome to More Than a Few Words, a marketing conversation for business owners. This is your host, Lorraine Ball. I'm kind of fangirling a little bit because I have got an amazing guest today. Vince Warnock is an 11-time best-selling author. He's the host of Chasing Insights podcast. He founded Business Mind magazine, and he has been named by Adobe as one of the top 25 marketers in the world. And with all of those credentials, I bet you think he never makes a mistake. Well, just like the rest of us, that's not true. And that's really what we're going to talk to Vince about today. Vince, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so looking forward to this. I love talking about mistakes, weirdly.
You know, one of the things I think when we first connected that I got a sense with you is that you like to laugh at yourself. I laugh at myself because, I've had some big ones. But let's dive into one of your mistakes. Sure. What were you hoping would happen and what went wrong?
Well, I can tell you. I'll start with what went wrong, actually, which was I gave into my own imposter syndrome. And this is a recurring theme right throughout my whole career. Like, honestly, you read out those credentials, as soon as you did, I wanted to run away and hide anyway, because the imposter syndrome was screaming at me going, who do you think you are? But for me, it was around the publishing of my first book. And this was a really big deal for me. This was when I got nominated or selected by Adobe as one of the top 25 marketers in the world. Huge accolade. I'm on stage with all of my heroes. Like the other 24 that were there were all my favorite people in the world, read every book they put out there. And I'm realizing I'm about to put a book out into the world. And imposter syndrome, I always like to say, it didn't really talk to me. It more like screamed in my ear. And it was like, who do you think you are? What makes you think you have any right to write a book? You know, people are going to read this and think, what an amateur. All these things were like screaming in my ear. So I did the stupidest thing. And the biggest mistake I think I ever made. In fact, one of the very few regrets I ever have in life was I sabotaged myself. And for me, it was, we had our book launch and by the way, everyone kept telling me, don't do a book launch. No one does book launches anymore. And I'm like, hold my beer. I'm a marketer. This is what we do, you know? So I did this event. We had like 100 people there from all over Australasia and people were coming over that were my peers, that were my friends and family and things like that. And it was a beautiful, beautiful night. Like, honestly, I got to tell them the story of writing the book and everything. But then at the end of that, everybody kept wanting signed copies of the book. And so I was signing copies of the book. And every time I handed it to them, they kept saying, oh, I can't wait to read this. I can't wait to read this. And as soon as they did that, they caused that tension inside of me to go, oh no, they're going to realize I'm a fraud. They're going to realize I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making this up as I go along, which, by the way, all of us do. If you're an entrepreneur, you make things up as you go along. That's kind of what you have to do.
Absolutely. But, you just have to know a little bit more than the person you're talking to be considered kind of an expert.
Oh, don't worry. I've seen people that don't know more than anyone, but they still, they can go out there confidently. But anyway, so I did the stupidest thing. I had all these interviews lined up for the next few days. There was Forbes magazine, there was Entrepreneur magazine, there was CIO magazine, a bunch of other ones all wanted to interview me about the book. And the very next day, I was so riddled with imposter syndrome, I rang them all and said, hey, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. I can't do this. And I went silent for like 2 or 3 weeks, I think it was. And that was my biggest regret. I had this massive opportunity. In fact, one of them, I won't name which one, wanted me on the cover. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this would be amazing. So about 3 weeks later, it was actually a phone call I got from one of my mentors. And he said, Vince, what's going on? I said, oh, busy. We've got this acquisition we're doing, blah, blah. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, what's happening with the book? And I told him the book numbers, the book sales. And he was like, oh, that's actually pretty impressive. I think he was a little bit jealous because I think I sold more than his early on. But he goes, but I haven't seen you out there. Like, you're dead quiet. Like, where are you on social? Where are you in the media? And I said, oh, I've just been too busy. And he goes, yeah, I'm going to call BS on that. And he called me out. And he realized, because he goes through the same thing, and everybody goes through the same thing. When you're putting your book out there, you'll go through that imposter syndrome. So he called me out on that and brought me back up above the surface of the water and just said, stop sabotaging yourself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my goodness. So clearly a lot of those publications had moved on. And even when you resurfaced, it was hard to reconnect.
Yep.
What lessons did you learn? Because you are an 11-time best-selling author, and this was your first book. Yep. So clearly you learned a few things along the way. What have you learned? What do you do differently now? Because we all still have that little twinge.
Yeah, I was gonna say the one thing I learned is it happens with every single book, like honestly. But the one thing I do differently now is I make sure that I know myself now, and this is the key: is understanding how you're going to operate, understanding that this is something I don't think I'll ever shake fully, right? I mean, I got to talk with Seth Godin, with Brian Solis, and Hanley, all my heroes. Every single one of them admitted that they're riddled with self-doubt and imposter syndrome as well, which kind of blew me away. It was like, wait a minute, if all the people I look up to deal with the same things I deal with, then I've got as much right to be at this table as all of them. So that was an interesting lesson. But it made me realize I need to surround myself with people who can talk to that. Like having that mentor call me up, that was 3 weeks too late, right? If I had a support network around me that said, hey, Vince, look, we know you're going to go through this, right? We know that this is what's going to happen. So we're going to cut it off at the pass. We're going to make sure you don't sabotage yourself. See, imposter syndrome is not bad. That's the thing people don't realize. It is just your brain sending you signals to try and keep you safe. What is bad is what you choose to do with that information. And what I chose to do was sabotage myself. So yeah, Lorraine, it's just surrounding myself with amazing people and just saying, hey, look, this is what I'm going to go through, being really emotionally honest with them. This is what's happening at the moment. I need you to hold me to account to this.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing is that one of the real keys is recognizing where you're going to get in your own way, accepting that that's going to happen, not be afraid of it, and just go, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to feel this way. Now, how do I get out of it? How do I get around it? And for you, it was building that support network.
That's exactly it.
That's brilliant. Okay. So have you got another mistake you want to share?
Oh my goodness. I've had so many mistakes. I think one of the interesting mistakes is not that, and this goes down to a pure marketing based thing here, where when I started on the kind of part of my career that I'm on now, I thought I need to increase my lead base. I need to basically get a pool of leads coming to me. I need a really effective lead magnet. And I know what intrigues people. I know how to create a good lead magnet. But what I didn't think of was what that lead magnet would mean for me. And I created, I'm a marketing coach, and I have AI companies and a publishing company, right? And in amongst the 7 different businesses. But I thought I just want to generate these leads. So I created, right, this guide to all of the free tools that you can use out there as a marketer, which was brilliant. And I'm telling you now, I had like 30, 40,000 people sign up for that immediately. I was like, wow, this is awesome. My email list is incredible. So then I did my email nurture sequence, and I was giving them more things for free and all this, and they absolutely loved that. And then I put an offer out there, and my unsubscribe rate was just bam, like absolutely crazy. And I realized something, and also even those that didn't unsubscribe didn't really sign up with it for anything. And I realized it was okay to have a lead magnet that resonated with people, but if it doesn't really describe what you do, if it doesn't bring them on a journey to what you're trying to bring them on, then it's just useful for them. And there's nothing wrong with being useful for them. I always say, give more than you ever take. That's just fact. But for me, it was like, okay, I need to turn this around. So for our publishing company, really, really simple. We realized there are 3 different mistakes, or not mistakes, but 3 different kind of barriers that people have. The first one is whenever they think about writing a book, they're like, what book should I write? I don't even know where to begin. So we created a free masterclass. That's our lead magnet, and said, hey, we can make this available to you. You can learn how to know what book you should be writing. Then we go to the second barrier, which is like, oh, well, I don't even know how to write a book now. Now that I know what book I want to write, I don't know where to begin. So we sell them a masterclass on that. So we've taken them from point A to now they're actually a paying customer. And then we go, right, now you know how to write a book. The next barrier is really simple. And that is it's overwhelming. You don't have the time. So get a writing coach, work with us. We will help you to write and publish this book. So now we've got a lead magnet that actually ties to our offers and actually gives them that sense of accomplishment and win up front. But early on, all it was it filled up my email marketing system with a whole pile of people that couldn't care less what I do. All they wanted was something that they could use.
Absolutely. That one of the things I did with one of my clients was I got them to give up the big contact form. I said, all you need is an email. For him, I said, you need an email and a phone number. And the reason you need the phone number is you need to know, back in those days, are they in your market? Now, of course, with cell phones, that doesn't work as well. And he's like, well, but I won't have any other information. How will I contact them? I'm like, that's okay. If they're interested, they'll contact you.
Exactly.
So
I'm also a firm believer, which I know you are as well, is don't ask for information you're not going to use straight away. Right? If you don't need that information, don't ask for it. You shouldn't be holding that information on them. There's a responsibility around information holding. So just make sure you're asking the bare basics of what you need. And if you need more, go out and ask them for more, but give them a reason for that. Don't just, and I had this, you want to talk about other people's mistakes? Oh my goodness. I had this the other day. I had to sign up for something where I'm like, okay, they require a mandatory phone number. And I don't give my phone number out to anyone except my clients. So I'm like, I have to put it in there. So I put my phone number in there, and then they gave you a notes field. So I said, under no circumstance, call that number. I had to put it in because it was the form. Don't call that number. I record 10 hours a day. I'm on multiple podcasts, multiple things. Don't do this. What happened the very next day? I got a phone call. And so I answered that phone call, and then they heard about it.
Oh my God.
I explained to them that there's a reason I put that note in there. And they, I thought you meant, and I'm like, so they actually saw the note, and you realize they just ignored it completely.
They just ignored it. Yeah. I have a Google phone number for that very purpose.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yes. I never, unless it's something I want to give you my phone number. Yep. Otherwise, you get the Google number, and that's what's done. Yeah.
My family and my clients, they're the only ones that know my phone number. That's the theory. So
you know what? And that's okay. The rest of the world does not need it.
No, they can email me and go into the 600 or 700 emails I get a day like everyone else.
Absolutely. Well, Vince, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
No, thank you for having me. This has been so much fun. Honestly, the problem I have talking to you is I've got hundreds of examples of mistakes I've made, and we could sit here and talk for hours and hours. It'd be amazing.
Well, you know what? I might just have to have you back sometime.
Anytime.
That would be great. But in the meantime, I am going to encourage anyone if you guys are listening, if you've enjoyed this conversation and you like Vince's energy as much as I do, you want to check out Chasing the Insights podcast. Vince, thanks again.
Oh, thank you so much.
And if you've enjoyed this conversation and you'd like to find other resources for your business, head over to morethanafewwords.com. You'll find hundreds of conversations just like this one, work papers, white papers, and so much more. This has been another episode of More Than a Few Words. Thanks for listening.